This has got to be the biggest story of the week and coming at its very end. It appears as though the FBI found thousands of Ahuma Abedin's emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop that belonged to Hillary and has given cover to Comey to reopen the Clinton investigation, and I think I can tell you why. Looks like the FBI director, James Comey, has seen the latest polls, thinks he'd better insulate himself from being incriminated in the vast left-wing conspiracy of the Clintons to commit fraud, bribery, theft, and obstruction of justice because under a Trump presidency, Comey could easily find himself being indicted. So it's best to start building your defense case ASAP. Swallow hard, Hillary. It's a bitter pill. And this one has legs. Here's an interesting article in anti-Trump violence that Americans have come to find out is being promoted by the Clinton campaign. Former employees Bobby Creamer and his right-hand thug Scott Fovel in charge of inciting riots. Both have resigned from the Clinton campaign, which employed them. You want to get a good overall read of just some of the assaults these organized and violent progressive social justice warriors of the Hillary Obama coalition, Soros, Move.org, and Black Lives Matter has committed against Trump voters. You'll want to read this. My point in bringing it up is to ask, what is everyone going to do when these Trump voters decide to defend themselves? For the most part, they're all law-abiding citizens. More so, a lot of them have concealed and carry license. If you can't go to a political event for your candidate because you're concerned for your safety, personally, your basic freedom demands any dangers be damned. You're going, if you are forced to defend yourself. These coordinated actions by the Clinton campaign to spread violence at Trump meetings is beyond criminal, and make no mistake about it. It emboldens violence by others in the Black Lives Matter killings of police during this summer. The danger is great because once the violence starts, it is very hard to put back in the bottle. I ask you to consider that America is in the first stage of a four-stage revolution, and it isn't until the third stage that the real shooting starts. It is quite clear the Clinton campaign was running a terrorist organization until this week. The rule of law must be enforced because the risks are astronomical, and people have no appreciation for these perilous times which America has entered. I would encourage you to start learning how to view daily conditions within the context of a revolution, else risk the bad habit of compartmentalizing these growing momentum into a new normal, until you find out the new normal is not normal at all. America and the entire world are entering a crisis stage, and it behooves all Americans to keep their heads about them and embrace liberty, which is the only way out of where we're going. Your dog gets better health care than you do. This dog was brought into a veterinarian's office and they went right to work, checked him out from stem to stern, sent him home, only $325 with no insurance. Try and compare that to a hospital that will charge, instead of $325, it'll be $32,000. But that's not a big surprise because that's how it's supposed to work, according to one of its primary architects, Jonathan Gruber, who was previously caught saying it's a good thing Americans are stupid because if they read Obamacare before it was passed, no one in their right mind would go along with it. Hillary wants to fix it and Trump wants to start all over. I'll let you know how everyone feels about it on November 9th. It's finally out in the open where we can talk about it. DeutscheBank at the abyss, and it was no help. There were a few earthquakes in Italy, home to Europe's new biggest insolvent banking system. Well, after DeutscheBank, of course. Now take a look at these charts in the S&P 500, gold, silver, oil, bonds, dollar. While the consolidation in oil, gold, and silver looks like it's asleep, for equities it's been in paralysis since August, almost like someone is keeping a foot on the whole mess till November 8th. I can't imagine why, can you? Stranger still because the dollar has been rallying not on its strength, but from every other country's weakness. Unless the currency in question is part of the SDR special drawing rights, the new counterfeit electronic global money, which in a perverse way makes crashing SDR's money start to rally, which only means that it isn't in free fall anymore, like the yuan and pound or in both China and England. Bonds are set to crash through this inverted ETF on bonds, meaning yields are going to drive lower yielding bonds down in value. Of course, with the dollar at 100 on par with everything else, how much more can it really rally into this resistance? Like I said, it's not the dollar's towering strength any more than a short man at a convention of midgets. So why should the dollar go higher? It just drags everybody else along with it for the ride. In essence, begins to make currency valuations even more abstract and meaningless. What's the upshot? Well, I don't think there is one. But I think it's telling us that things are going to get a lot worse after November 8th. Because I think the foot's coming off. Here's something to love. Gina McCarthy explaining why the nation would be stark raving mad to make the U.S. EPA a totally independent agency like the SEC or CFTC governing market regulations. Only the U.S. EPA would govern our lives. If Gina wants to save us, and to do that, all we have to do is go back to living like it's 1899. I wonder if we're supposed to chop wood, keep a milk cow out back, chickens, and how do I get to work? Yeah, I've got a suggestion. Why not just explode a crude nuclear bomb 250 miles above Nebraska and wipe out the power transmission system across the United States along with most of our transportation vehicles, computers, televisions? You get the idea. Instead of nirvana, according to Gina, of course it would be instead hell to others. Of course, our nation's leaders would still require central air and a V8 while the rest of us are mixing notes for Henry. Henry was a draft horse I once knew, and we're going to need a lot of them if Gina gets her way. I guess it all depends on the election. Now let's switch over to the international world. The crowded skies over Aleppo look to be getting more crowded as the Russian fleet's only aircraft carrier fleet chugs into the Mediterranean. Does anyone believe the Russians are really a military threat to the United States or NATO? That boat is huffing and puffing like an old oiler from World War I. Is this what Hillary and the War Party think threaten the American people? Or is it just their unnatural craving for more, an insatiable greed driven by the need to conquer, even if it destroys your own country, because you'll thank me for it later after it's too late? The reality in Syria is that eventually Russia is going to win, provided we don't start trading planes with them before November 8th, or Hillary gets elected. What this article points out, it's a no-lose proposition with Putin having allies on all three landslides as his fleet arrives in the Mediterranean this week. To the north is Turkey, Russia's recent ally and business partner for a gas pipeline around Ukraine to service Western Europe. To the south, it's Egypt, with whom Russia will be conducting naval training exercise with during the fleet's visit. Just off of the Levant lies Syria, its ally to the east. And politically, Russia has done a masterful job in protecting itself on all three sides with salt water to its rear. And in doing so, once again, they have outshone our current Obama administration. Again. Finally, to show you just how absurd the United Nations is, Russia was removed from the Human Rights Commission, and Saudi Arabia went big and serves alongside China, Cuba, and Iran. This isn't to say Russia is the paragon of human rights, but neither is America. But cutting Russia is like cutting out the U.S. Does it get worse? I don't know. Do you call Saudi Arabia chairing the UN Human Rights Commission absurd? So much for human rights as the UN's global status takes another beating. How's that for an answer? We close with a few of the cartoons I picked up over the week, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I have. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, William W. Faywell. Surf's up, America!